are continuing discussing the laws of carrying on Shabbos. We're going through the four domains that exist. We've gone through the first two, which is the private domain and the public domain. And so he writes here, Rabbi Appel writes, a public area, you're not allowed to carry from a private domain to a public domain or vice versa. Or this is a biblical obligation, a biblical prohibition. You're not allowed to carry 4 amos in the public domain. But what you can do is, under certain circumstances, you can make a public domain into a private domain in order to allow carrying on Shabbos. Law number 5. A third type of the third of the four domains is called a karmoit. A karmoit, is a semi-public domain, which does not conform to the above specifications of the public domain, and so therefore is not called a public domain, but it's like a rabbinic Reshut Rabban. So what's the examples of a karmelit? A side street less than 16 amos wide, an alleyway closed off at one end, an open field, open country, seas and rivers. The airspace above a karmelit to a height of 10 tefachim is considered under the rules of a karmelit. So just like it's rabbinically prohibited to carry from a private domain to a public domain or into a karmelit, from either a private or public domain into a karmelit. A fourth area is called a makom patur, a free place. This is an area in the public domain less than 4 tefachim square that it's enclosed by partitions of 3 or more tefachim in height, and an elevation or object in the public domain there's more than 3 tefachim above ground. Okay, let's go to hello there, Donnie. How you doing today? You had a good day? Okay, let's read on the bottom of page 243, law number 7. All right. Okay, you read that for us, Donnie. Hold on one second. Okay, Donnie, you read for us 243, law 7.
Okay. Where carrying on Shabbos is forbidden, whether as a biblical prohibition, you may not move, throw, extend, transfer, or carry any object by any means, whether by hand, over the arm or shoulder, or even in your pockets. For example, you're forbidden to carry any food or drink, any article of whatever size or weight, even a key, a handkerchief, a tallis, or a sitter, or any article of clothing.
See, I think this law of carrying nowadays, the younger generation, there's the concept of an Erev, certainly in America, is so prolific. Most people have never lived in communities where there's no Erev. Have you, as the Kemal Erev, ever been down? Have you ever been told? Once. Have you ever been told you can't carry this Shabbos because there's no Erev? Never.
We once went somewhere that they didn't have an Erev.
Like went on vacation.
Yeah.
Okay. You're permitted to go outdoors while wearing an article of clothing in a normal manner. So let me read the footnotes. Carrying money and valuables home when Shabbos arrives. If you're still on the way home when Shabbos begins and you have something valuable in your pocket, your hand or in person, and you can't entrust it to a Gentile or leave it somewhere in the way, you should do as follows. If you are with someone, you should each take turns carrying a distance of less than 4 amos and then handing it to the other until you approach the house. If you're alone, you should carry it in stages for a distance less than 4 amos at a time, stopping each time and, if possible, depositing on the ground. Upon reaching the house, you should throw it into the house or a courtyard in a backhand manner. If this is not possible, you should proceed in the following manner. You should run home quickly without stopping, and upon arriving, you should throw it into the house or courtyard in a backhand manner. If you're walking on Shabbos and find that you are carrying something, you should drop the object. If it's of value and you cannot abandon it, you should proceed as above. Basically, to make it like technically not a violation, because you don't want to lose your money. What about carrying medicine in case of an emergency? Like some people have heart conditions, they have to carry nitroglycerin pills. People who have tremendous allergies, they have to carry EpiPens. So you can carry those, but you have to do it in an unusual manner. So, so this is permitted when going to synagogue to pray or learn Torah for the sake of a mitzvah. So, okay, so how would you carry it? I guess make a special, different way of carrying it on Shabbos. Carrying ID and information in case of emergency. If someone has a medical condition requiring special treatment, he or she may wear a bracelet around his or her wrist, or a tag on a chain around the neck, bearing blood type and instructions as to medication and medical treatment in case of an emergency. So basically, you wear it on a wrist, on a tag. Okay.
I have a question about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I once went to a show where you needed to bring your passport to show it to them. So
Yeah.
could you bring that with you or no?
There was no Erev there.
No.
So then you have to do it. You should make a tag on a chain around the neck, is what he says. Because how else are you going to get in? And you need to be able to, for the security of the Jewish community, everybody needs to carry their passport. So make like a necklace and put it on. That's what he's saying.
Okay.
Of course. And then tuck the necklace in so people don't see your passport, because that'd be. You might be able to ask them if you could show up before Shabbos, so that way you won't have to carry it on Shabbos. They would have let you have done that if you asked. Carrying candy or gum in the mouth, you can't carry that. You're not allowed. What about having a child carry a sitter? You're not allowed to accustom a child to violate Shabbos. Therefore, you may not give the child a key to carry on Shabbos where there's no Erev, unless it's for a mitzvah. You may give the child a sitter to carry for the child's own use, which you may share upon arrival. Okay. You may, fine. Wearing a necktie and tie clip outdoors. You may wear an article of clothing and whatever is normally attached to the clothing or is worn to service it. You're permitted to wear a necktie and tie clip outdoors on Shabbos. What about going out with a label sewn into a garment? So you may do that. You're allowed to do that. That's part of the garment. What about carrying a handbag or a purse? While it's customary to go out wearing jewelry and ornaments, you may never carry any of these articles in your hand. A woman is therefore not permitted to carry a purse, handbag, or evening bag when there's no Erev, even if its use is only ornamental. Okay. So, read the next law, Donnie. In the view, yeah. This is probably the most relevant one of everything we've done so far. Okay.
In the view of many authorities, an area is not deemed a Rishus HaRabim unless it is frequented daily by 600,000 people. Accordingly, since our cities and streets do not, for the most part, meet this condition, as well as other pertinent halachic requirements, they do not constitute a Rishus HaRabim, where carrying would be biblically forbidden, but are rather considered to be a Carmelis, where carrying is only rabbinically prohibited. Rabbis throughout the generations have, consequently, sanctioned the establishment of what is called.
So basically, the only way you can make an Eruv is if it's a rabbinic public domain. And since ours, according to many authorities, since we don't have 600,000 people on most streets, therefore, every public domain is actually a rabbinic public domain. And so therefore, you can make an Eruv, which is what he's going to talk about. Go on.
Rabbis throughout the generations have consequently sanctioned the establishment of what is commonly known as an Eruv in a designated community or in a city, thereby transforming it into a Rishus HaYachid where carrying is permissible. This is done by encompassing the entire area with a fence or other partitions, either actual or nominal.
You know what nominal means here? That it's not an actual partition, but it's a symbolic partition. Or it's more than symbolic, it's just a token. To like we put a post on a telephone pole. Okay, go on.
Including certain natural boundaries, such as a steep hill or a river embankment, in accordance with prescribed regulations. Inasmuch as complex halachic rules are involved, the Eruv should be instituted under the guidance and supervision of a rabbinic authority. For further particulars, see Part 3, Chapter 1. Okay,
so let's look at the footnotes here. Institution of the Eruv. The requirement that 600,000 people frequent the area for it to be considered a public domain is predicated on the presumption that a Reshut Harabim is defined by the characteristics of the original Reshut Harabim, which was the Jewish encampment in the desert called the Machane Yisrael. The number of adult male Israelites of military age in this camp is set at this figure in the Torah. So really, 600,000, according to this approach, is not the number, because there's 600,000 men between the ages of 20 and 60, but there is 3 million people, we would assume. This requisite condition for Reshus Harabim has been generally accepted as a basis for establishing an Erev made of string, which is called the Tzuras HaPesach. But here in our city, what we use is the telephone poles, a lechi, we put a post on it, and then we put up wires connecting the telephone poles. We put up our own wires connecting them. Rabbinic authorities, we made a mark all the way up the telephone pole, and then we made wires in between the telephone poles. Or actually, no, we put up some poles we had to put in wires in between by like the light poles, but the other ones we just put a wire all the way up the telephone pole, and then we connect it to the telephone lines. Rabbinic authorities have been instrumental in instituting a Reuven in many historic Jewish communities. Following historical precedent, the Erev has in recent times become more prevalent in growing Jewish communities, as well as in some already established, in a concerted effort to provide greater convenience. Okay, yeah. Natural boundaries qualifying for the Erev. A body of water, such as a river or lake, qualifies as a wall provided the height of the embankment at the shoreline of the riverbank is 10 tfachim or more in an incline of less than 4 amos. So you can use natural bodies of water, like a river or a lake, as long as there's a 10 tfachim, a 3-foot incline, less than 4 amos, 3 feet incline in less than 4 amos. A trench with the above dimensions qualifies as well. However, other factors, such as whether the place is a bridge span or is a dock for boats, or if the water freezes over in the winter, come under halachic consideration, and in some places may require Tzuras HaPesach, as the natural boundaries are insufficient. Okay, so we'll stop here, pick this up, God willing. Tomorrow is going through the Erev. Obviously, we're just touching the surface of the Erev. We studied the Erev for studied it a long time when we were studying in Tzmicha. Okay, we'll stop here.